Hey everyone, so today is day 20, and today I'm going to talk about perception. So I really think it's useful to consider our own perceptions and to think about where they come from and how they impact our lives and our experience of life. So some people would say that perception is reality. And other people would say that perception and reality are are distinct. You know, you can have a perception of something, but the actual reality is separate. It isn't specifically your perception. Um, and others would say it's kind of somewhere in between. Um, I think if I had to side with one of those views, I'd probably go more with the former. You know, perception is reality. I think our perceptions drive our reality more than we realize. Um, so let me give a bit of an example that might help us just understand the power of our perception in our lives. So imagine there are two separate people with their different bosses at work. And the first person believes that their boss doesn't like them. That's their perception. And then the second person believes that their boss does like them. So when the first person who believes their boss doesn't like them goes into meeting situations with their boss and interacts at work with their boss, they will, see this perception through how the boss interacts, no matter what it is. They'll start to consider, oh, they did that, that means they don't like me, that proves they don't like me. And then similarly for the other person who has the perception that their boss does like them, they go into situations with their boss, they have the same sort of meetings, but they actually see their boss liking them. So the perception really drives the interpretation um, of of what happens in interaction with their respective bosses. Um, and in a way, their perception does become their reality. You could also step outside the situation and say, well, does the boss actually like the person or not? Um, and potentially the person in the first situation, the boss does like um, their employee, even though the employee thinks they don't. Um, but it's kind of irrelevant to the person who believes that their boss doesn't like them. You know, if they never talk about it, if it's never reconfirmed, if the perception doesn't change, then it's completely irrelevant, and that person's reality is fully what they believe in the first place. Um, I guess there could be some sort of feedback in terms of experience, which causes that perception to change. But when you have that perception that your boss doesn't like you, that is your reality. And then similarly with the other person. So I don't know if that's the best example I could have given, but it's worth thinking about because um, it can challenge us as to the perceptions that we hold in our lives. We can be so sure of them, and then we feel that we get feedback in reality that confirms them. But are we just creating the reality through our perception in the first place? Um, so it's something to ponder, and it's definitely something I've pondered a lot. I think I've created um, like bad things in my life through having false perceptions of myself and others. And I think it's useful to start to challenge our perceptions. So I just want to leave you with that, and I'm going to read through a couple of quotes that I think are useful in the context of perception. Um, so I just sort of came across these, and I think they're useful to consider. So the first one's by a guy called Deepak Chopra, who you may be familiar with, and he said, "What you experience as reality is shaped by your habits of perception." And then just another quote from a guy called Jewett Jones, who I don't actually know who he is, but I thought it's relevant. Do we choose to see possibilities? Do we really believe that they're there? Perception controls our reality, and if we don't believe it, we won't see it. So that's the second quote, which I think is powerful in terms of the possibilities that we let into our lives, or the ones that we block through the perceptions that we have. And then finally, I actually saw this quote online this morning, and it seemed sensible to add, sort of for that reason. And it actually goes beyond perception and talks about where our perceptions come from. So I'll read this out quickly. As you come to recognize the power of your consciousness, that what is behind your eyes holds more power than what appears in front of them, your inner and outer perceptions change. So that draws in a new topic, which is consciousness and how it impacts our perceptions. So I'm not going to go into that. It's quite a deep and full topic. I may talk about it at another point. But yeah, let's be careful with our perceptions. Let's think about where they come from, and let's think about how we can form our perceptions to align to the outcomes that we want, so that we create the realities in our world that we want to have. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Just some food for thought. Interested if anyone's got any thoughts on it. I'm wrestling with the concepts myself, I guess, trying to form them into what sits well with me. So yeah, thanks again for listening. Have a great day.